Hi everybody, welcome to the show. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Raising A to Z. My name is Amanda. I am the homeschool mom behind Raising A to Z. I am also a certified teacher, and today we are going to talk about how to quit emergency distance learning. Like a lot of places, we live in Ontario where they have emergency distance learning right now thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have about a minimum of a month left of emergency distance learning classes, but it has been almost 5-6 weeks of this, and some people are getting frustrated. Some people are having a really hard time with emergency distance learning. There are people out there who, for them, emergency distance learning is serving a purpose. It is everything that they need right now, and that is great. This video is not for you. But there is a group of people out there who are finding this emergency distance learning really, really hard. Right now, they are very overwhelmed, not just by the whole pandemic situation itself, which is overwhelming to begin with job losses, financial insecurities, bizarre shifts, extra medical precautions, social distancing, like that's overwhelming in itself. But once we add in the emergency distance learning, it's a lot for some people. There's the constant check-ins from your teachers and constant binging on your mobile devices about assignments that are due. There's tons of notifications, there's Zoom meetings. You're talking about having to learn to use multiple apps on a regular basis. We're talking about like bandwidth problems and figuring out which device which kid needs to complete that assignment for that day. That's confusing. That's frustrating for people who start one assignment like, oh, can't do this, got to move on from the iPad to the computer. It's a lot of frustrations. We also have, assignments, like how do you get the assignment sent in? How do you figure out which assignment needs to be done when? People are living on very different schedules right now. Some people are working extra shifts, some people are working from home, and then also trying to figure out how to keep their kids happy and healthy in the home is difficult enough. Like that's difficult enough. And then adding in, well, you need to be on this Zoom call with your teacher at this time, and you guys need to meet up with these people at that time, and I need to be on my work call at this time. Like it's a lot of frustrations and overwhelming things just all adding up. And some people are just done, and that's okay. Right now, in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, learning is not the emergency. It is a health emergency. It's not a learning emergency. And so we're going to talk a little bit about a couple facts about the education system right now, and how if at the end you're saying I'm done, how can you walk away from emergency distance learning right now? So here we go. Let's start with some facts that are just basic things that you need to know about the COVID-19 pandemic and emergency distance learning right now. The first thing, we have already done a video about it. You can find that here. Emergency distance learning is completely different from homeschooling. So if you are frustrated with the whole technology side of it and trying to figure out how to get your kids motivated to do this, but you still want them learning things, that's okay. You can still homeschool your kids and have them learning things and doing educational activities and it not be emergency distance learning. Those are two different things, and we have a whole video about that. You can check that out here, and that's okay. Kids can learn and not do emergency distance learning. Second, and probably arguably the most important thing that we need to talk about, in Ontario, the Ministry of Education has come out and stated that students' grades cannot go lower than the grade they had as of March 13th, which was the last day of school before spring break started. So if your child has 65 in math, they cannot get lower than a 65 regardless of what they do in their class. Whether they participate or don't, whether they submit assignments or they don't, their grades cannot get lower than the grade that they had on March 13th. That is coming directly from the Ministry of Education. It has been sent to all the boards in Ontario. There's that. That is probably the most important thing, is that your kids' grades cannot get lower. Any assignments that they do submit can only be used to bring up their grade and to improve their grades going forward. That is number one. They've also stated that there will be no exams for high school students, regardless of if they go back or not. So those are things that are very important to keep in mind during this time. That being said, people are concerned that if they don't do these assignments and they don't do all these things that the teachers are asking them to do, their kids are going to fall behind. That's not exactly true. See, when the only way you can fall behind is if everybody is moving forward and you're staying still, right? But the thing is, right now, everybody is staying still. Part of being a teacher is, the ethics of being a teacher is that you are required to make sure that all your students have every opportunity to be successful. And right now, it would be incredibly unethical for a teacher to penalize students because they weren't able to keep up with the schoolwork or weren't able to understand the schoolwork while they weren't there to give the assistance. That's really important. But also, because everything is kind of on hold, if no one is moving, you can't fall behind. And I think that's a really important thing to really emphasize is no one is going to fall behind. The entire world, pretty much, a good part of the world is standing still when it comes to education in public school system. No one is moving ahead. There are going to be huge concessions made for students going into school grades next year. There's going to be huge concessions given to extra learning and supporting students who don't have the academic skills or have forgotten certain things. That's okay. That's normal. Most of September is spent reteaching things that students have forgotten from last year, and they're just going to do the same thing. Students will not fall behind, and it is going to be okay. Even if your kid stops learning emergency distance learning, they are not going to fall behind. They'll be okay in the long run. And lastly, I think this is another important fact that we need to remember is in Ontario, you have the right to educate your child as you see fit. So whether that is homeschooling, unschooling, emergency distance learning, choosing a different online program, you as a parent have incredible rights as to how your kids will be educated. And that is amazing. First off, amazing that we have those kinds of rights. But you also, it puts you in an amazing position where if this isn't working for you, you can stop. And it's really not that hard. You can stop and make your life so much better. Going back, we have some people who are desperate to stop. They're done with having their phone ping 15 times with assignments. They're done getting constant email reminders of things that their kids should be doing or could be doing. I've got friends who are in kindergarten and are getting 6 emails a day for their kindergartner of activities they should be doing today. I know people who said, March break and the 2 weeks before this whole emergency distance learning thing were actually pretty great. We were doing all kinds of activities and we did a little bit of workbook thing, we did lots of reading and we did baking and we went on nature walks and it was amazing. And then distance learning started and it's all gone downhill from here. It's just been a mess. Those are the people that we're talking about right now. If you were having a great time with your kids back in March break and you're just like, I wish I could go back to that, we're going to tell you how you can do that. So the first thing you're going to want to do if you want to quit emergency distance learning, I would recommend you contact your child's teacher and find out what their grades were as of March 13th, as well as what are their grades standing right now. The reason I would do this is if there is a subject that your child is struggling in, this is a perfect time to focus on that. So if your kid's having a hard time with math or with science or with reading and writing, you know what? You can easily drop all the other subjects and just focus on that one and continue the emergency distance learning in that aspect if you really wanted to. So instead of trying to teach them 4 or 5 subjects every day, just focus on the reading and writing or focus on the math. And that would, first off, just dramatically free up your time. You'd have a lot less stress and you'd be only focusing on one subject. So instead of trying to get your kid to sit and do 1 to 2 hours of work, it might only be 15 to 20 minutes, and that can make a big difference in your day. Also, and because their grades can only go up, any work that they do can improve their grades. So if you have a child who's really struggling and they really have a low grade, this is a great way for them to easily boost their grade just by doing the activities their teacher has already asked them. So that's my first thing is find out if there's an area where you do need to improve in terms of grades. And then just focus on those. Let's say you are a parent, you've done this, you've contacted their teacher, you've gotten their grades, and you're like, you know what, I'm happy, everything's good, their grades are just where I was thinking they'd be, I'm happy with that, the grades across the board. What are you gonna do now? You still wanna stop emergency distance learning? You can. First off, I would contact your teachers and just say, you know what, we got it from here, we're gonna just do what we need to do at home. and can you please stop emailing us? I would say that I would just let them know that you're going to continue homeschooling and doing this emergency distance learning at your own home and without their assistance. I think that's really important right now because it's going to stop you from getting like the constant emails and the constant assignment bings and all of that. Definitely, I think that's a great way. Like, communication with your teachers are super important, especially if you're intending to send your kids back to school when this is all over. I think keeping those lines of communications open is really important. But just being really honest with, like, this isn't working. We're going to say goodbye. We will see you guys when this is all over. Just letting them know where you stand is really important. The only thing that comes up with just saying you're going to be done is that homeschoolers typically have a different process when it comes to pulling their kids. So normally, if I have my kids in public school system, I'm pulling them out to homeschool them at home. I can pull them and I have to submit a letter of intent to the school board, for sure. And usually it is considered polite to send one to the principal as well. The problem being right now is no one's there to get the mail, right? So even if you were to send a letter of intent to your school board or to your principal, they probably won't get it, a hard copy. And so it's we're kind of in a gray area. And because the ministry has said that students will not be penalized for not doing any of the work, I would really recommend, just talk to your teachers and principal if need be, and just, let them know that you're just going to be homeschooling for right now until everything ends. Now, I will say you might get a little bit of pushback. Schools are kind of doing this weird double talk that we're seeing that number one, they are supporting the ministry's position that grades cannot get lower than anything on March 13th, that students' grades can only improve, yada, 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 on one side. But on the other side, they are also really pushing that students stay engaged, that students are doing activities and following along with the teacher. I have a friend of mine whose kindergarten son was told that if he doesn't do his daily activities, he will not pass kindergarten. A, that's not true. B, it's just a lot of stress for teachers and principals and schools right now. There might be a little bit of pushback, but again, you have the right to homeschool, you have the right to pull your kids from emergency distance learning, and you can just say, we're going to do this on our own for now. And right now, that might be the best option for your family, and you got to do what's best for your family. Now, another question that we get and that we've seen people worry about is what is going to happen to our kids in September when all this is over, when they're going back to school. If they haven't done anything, what do we do? First off, like I said, teachers are already aware that there's going to be a huge kind of gap in the sense that students will be missing pretty much everything that should have been taught from April, May, and June, hypothetically, if we don't go back, right? Teachers know that. They are going to accommodate. They're going to make learning plans and schedules to accommodate the fact that kids weren't in school for those few months. That's normal. That's what teachers are expected to do. Your child, when you go back, you would just register them and make sure that they're in the grade that they should be in. So if they are in grade 5 right now, you're going to make sure they're in grade 6 next year, just like you normally would. Public schools are required to take kids, whether they have to take them. If they fall in their geographical location and are meeting their programming, they have to take them. That's just the way it is. They cannot refuse a child because they didn't complete part of the year or that they were homeschooled. They have to take them regardless. There's that. Your kids will continue in their grade. They'll continue in their class. The schools have to allow it. Don't worry that your kids are missing what was taught in April, May, and possibly June. Not only do I have parent friends, I have teacher friends, and they're reporting sometimes they only have 10% of their class logging in right now, which gives you an interesting view on how things are going. When you only have 10% of your class logging into your lesson, you know that when September comes, you're going to have to go over those things again anyway. So your kids are not going to be falling behind, and they're just going to get to continue on. So just think of it that way. As if school has been paused from March until September. Life will continue. They will get to move into their next grade, and it's going to be okay. So you pulled your kids from emergency distance learning. You're just going to take it from there. What are you going to do at home? First thing you're going to do is take a deep breath and just let the stress of emergency distance learning wash away. I would definitely take a couple days off. If this has been a particularly stressful time, just take a couple days off, don't do anything learning wise for a couple days, and just kind of have a mini deschooling session. We've talked about deschooling as homeschoolers. We have a video about that as well. We'll put that here. But it is important that if you have had a particularly hard time with the distance learning, take a break completely. Don't do any learning type activities for at least a few days, and just let everyone breathe and let the school work learning ideas go. Just for a little while, just to let everyone let the stress out of their system so that everyone is in a better place to learn when it's time. And then from there, you are in charge. You get to pick how your family is going to learn. So for some people, they're very structured and very scheduled. That's how their families function best. They might institute a small, we're going to do a learning time every day for 1 hour. Or we're going to do, some parents have picked up workbooks, and your kids are going to work through a workbook for, do 3 pages a day. If that's what's working for you, do it. If that's what makes your family function and tick and everyone's happy with it, go for it. But also consider things like personal projects. Find a subject that kids are really interested in and just let them dive in and learn all about the history and the mechanics and and really fall in love with a really awesome subject. Those are really popular things that homeschoolers do, independent projects and personal learning projects. Have some reading time, whether it's kids read by themselves, whether you read a book as a family aloud. You don't even have to read the books yourselves anymore. There's amazing things called audiobooks, and you just put one on and listen to it. I know a lot of people who put an audiobook on while their kids play Lego, and it's a great way just to mix reading and another activity and just have those things blend together to become something that is a little bit more feasible for a family, especially when they're at home on quarantine. I would also recommend people find a way to be creative during this whole quarantine time. Find things that get your kids excited and find ways for them to express what they're going through. It's great for your mental health, and it's also a great way to kind of keep kids engaged. So whether it's cooking, whether it's writing, poems, stories, picture books, drawing, painting, Play-Doh, Lego. There's so many different ways to be creative, and I think it's really important that we let kids have that space to explore what they're going through. My kids have been really into dress up, and let me tell you, they might dress up as princesses, but they certainly talk a lot about the coronavirus. It's their way of processing what they're going through, and it's really helpful for them. I would say that I will focus right now on learning through life. Like I said, letting kids explore personal project and, learning through different life experiences right now, whether that's gardening, nature walks, cooking, fixing the car, whatever. This is a time to let them do that. I wouldn't focus on looking for a new curriculum. Curriculum is a really tricky beast, especially if you're not in it for the long run. So you might want to definitely keep away from curriculum unless you're really planning on doing this long term. The things we learn in life are more than just what's in our books in our schools. It's more than just what happens in the classroom. It's more than just academics. There are so many life skills that happen in the world. And maybe this free time that some kids have to explore a new passion, to learn to focus on relationships and to notice things could be the big difference that happen in the future. We don't know. Maybe the kids who are sitting here right now, bored out of their minds, are looking at plants, and one day they're going to discover how to make crops that can feed millions. What if there are kids out there who are playing with their Legos right now because they have hours to do that, and they're going to be the great next engineers? What if we gave kids these chances? And if that's how you're feeling and distance education is hampering that for you, then let it go. Walk away and don't worry. Your kids can go back to school in September, and they might even be better for it. Thanks for watching. Again, my name is Amanda, and if you like this video and other videos that we put up here on our YouTube channel, Raising A to Z, please click the subscribe button and click the bell so you get notifications when we put out a new video. We do that every Monday. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We post little tips and tidbits and activity ideas up there daily. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We will always get back to you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next Monday.